Major Freeman, how are you?
Hey, Bob, how you, sir?
I am doing well, my friend. Been a while, but I've been following all your exploits on the campaign trail. Good on you, brother.
Thank you so much, Bob. I really appreciate it.
You got it.
So Robert, you spent all that time typing in a big question. You want to ask it?
What question?
No, he didn't. That was for Angle.
Oh.
Yeah, no, we have.
It can't be for Angle.
What can't be?
It's a different meeting. That's Robert's question for this one. Public safety.
No.
Yeah, that's for this one.
Yeah.
Oh, Mr. Resnick asked the question, not Mr. Avrak.
Yes, that's Robert versus Bob.
Ah, got it. Okay. Yeah.
Or Rob versus Bob. Either way. Okay.
Usually when I'm called Robert, it's because I'm in trouble.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay. Alex, if you can see it, Rob's question was: public safety is a big part of the job. Driving in this area can be dangerous at times. Cars drive highway speeds on roads like Military Trail, and by that I mean 65 miles an hour or higher. Rob, I've never driven you anywhere. Posing a very serious threat to the safety of more responsible drivers as well as pedestrians. What will your priorities be to make our streets safer? And can you assure us speed enforcement will be a priority? To be clear, I'm not talking about someone going a little over, but rather at excessive speeds.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, with the traffic unit, we'll have them out there enforcing all traffic laws, so on and so forth. But we also want to be clear that although the sheriff is the sheriff of Palm Beach County, we also got to make sure that we're stepping on the toes of other municipalities in their jurisdictions. So if there's a concern about traffic in a particular area, it's not saying that the sheriff office couldn't go out there and address it, but as a friendly gesture and working with other agencies, we'll definitely inform them of the concern, and if they refuse or don't act on it, which I'm sure they would, but if they didn't, our deputies would, and we would work in collaboration with those agencies to make sure that we address traffic concerns here in Palm Beach County.
Sounds good.
Can we throw in good questions? I got a good one.
Here's a question, Alex. Nancy and I were talking this morning. It's really her question, but I'll jump in with it. How would you distinguish defunding the police, which is being spoken of, and reprioritizing, getting rid of, better training, I guess, and also all the military equipment that the police have. I don't know what the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office has, but I don't think they have tanks. But it's some heavy duty stuff that they're passing around.
Well, when we think of those words, defunding the police department, but that particular one word, defunding, when we think of that, many folks have the notion that we're talking about doing it with the police force. And, the reality is that we can't do it with law and order. So what we would do is, as the next sheriff of this county, in order to take a serious look at that budget, we're going to administer a forensic audit line item by line item to determine what program serves as a benefit to the people of Palm Beach County versus programs that don't. The programs that don't, we're going to eliminate those programs and replace them with programs such as working with mental health providers, social workers, so on and so forth, that work in collaboration with the sheriff office. So as we go out and engage individuals that are suffering with mental disorders, we'll have that mental health professional right there with us. When it comes to social workers, we go out there and on calls for service that requires a social worker, we'll have that individual right there with us. I believe that in terms of reform, that we need immediately racial bias training at the Palm Beach County Sheriff Office, but not just the Sheriff Office, I think throughout Palm Beach County. And if I could just regress a little, about 20 years ago, law enforcement, in order to maintain our law enforcement certification to continue on as a law enforcement officer, we had to take what was called a human diversity course, where we actually sat in a classroom setting for 8 hours, and we had a direct conversation with our colleagues about what we felt about each other races. And the whole idea was for the course and the class for it to become a heated discussion without becoming physical. And after the lunch break, then we came back and we shared with the different cultures why certain cultures do what they do, so that when we go back out in the communities and police our communities, we have a great understanding of the communities that we're serving. Give you a good example. If you are around a group of Jamaican men and Haitian men, a lot of them, they talk loud. That is just their culture. But if you're not aware of their culture, you would think that they're probably trying to get into a physical fight and they're arguing. So we need to have human diversity training. But what has happened is they moved it from the classroom setting, and what's happening is now all the law enforcement practitioner have to do now is go online and memorize multiple choice questions. And once he or she has done that, they have now just secured their law enforcement certification for another 4 years to practice law enforcement. And so that is no real way to gauge human diversity or racist bias training. I believe in a citizen review board panel. The current sheriff does not believe in a citizen review board panel, but I do. I believe that law enforcement is one of the professions that unfortunately or fortunately give us the right to take someone's life. And with that kind of power, I think there needs to be an oversight. So I would definitely support and work in collaboration with State Attendant Dave Ehrenberg to see if we could bring that to the sheriff's office. I believe in body cameras. It costs $19 million to outfit PBS body cameras. When we look at the sheriff's budget, his budget is $700 million. And when we look at the grant funding that he also receives, his budget is $750 million. There is no reason why the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office shouldn't have body cameras. That's a drop in the bucket. And the only thing that I can conclude to is that there refuse to be transparency and accountability. And these early warning system that identifies the actions of deputies when they engage in excessive force complaints. We need to identify who they are and give them the assistance that they need, or get them out of the agency and hold them accountable for their actions. There also needs to be a ban on chokeholds, and I also feel and believe that there needs to be a duty to act policy. Whenever a deputy see another deputy violating the policy and violating someone right, he or she should intervene, because if they allow it to happen, they just as guilty. So we have to hold them accountable as well. I'm going to pause here because I know there may be some questions, based.
I have one.
Sure.
If we live in a country that has a prison industrial complex,
Yes.
where we just send people to prison to a large extent to send them to prison to fuel the whole system. I don't know. I mean, obviously the Palm Beach, sheriff can't do a whole lot about that. Part of it is the drug laws, which are of course unevenly enforced. I guess I will use that term. I personally, if I wasn't white, and middle class would have ended up in jail on at least one occasion where, you know, where I didn't.
Right.
My whole thing is I just want to decriminalize all drugs and take all the money that goes to the police to enforce the drug laws to put them into treatment and mental health. That would half the size of the police department, probably not make you popular with the unions. But nonetheless, this is where we have to go. We have to put less people. How can we do something to stop the, obviously we're getting somewhere with marijuana, at least after 40, 50 years of calling for legalization. It looks like we're finally getting there. Is there anything that can be done to stop the just railroading of people into jail?
Well, you know, I tell you, when it comes to, you know, when it comes to the law, you know, now I'm a supporter of I think about 3 years ago, Palm Beach County, they enacted a bill or an ordinance that allowed for individuals caught with a small amount of marijuana to be given a citation. So I support that, you know, I mean, because if they have a small amount of marijuana, you know, it's going to take about 3 to 4 hours for a deputy to complete the paperwork on such a small misdemeanor. And whereas that individual is going to be back out of jail before the deputy is done with the paperwork, because it's a lot of paperwork when it comes to making an arrest.
Alex, 1 second. I just promoted everybody to panelists so we can see everybody.
Yeah.
So
Looks
don't
good.
pick your nose in case you haven't realized that your cameras are on, guys. Okay, thank you, Alex. Back.
So I support that. The county commissioners, they spoke then, and I support that as a law enforcement practitioner. You know, some may think and feel and believe, no, I'm the law enforcement personnel and I'm going to enforce the state law, you know, and state statute, which that's fine. But I think that if we're serious about recidivism and changing the lives of people and giving people a chance, then we as law enforcement practitioners, we need to get away from the notion that as long as we have criminals, we're going to have job security. You know, that is why when I become the next sheriff of this county, we're going to work in collaboration with apprenticeship programs and employers. We're going to work with apprenticeship programs that are willing to come into the sheriff's office and train those men and women in the trade. And then we're going to work with employers who are willing to give them an opportunity for employment once they transition back in our communities. You know, and then we're going to host job fairs, something that has never happened at the sheriff's office. You know, when an individual leaves the county jail, and if he or she is still on probation and they don't have a job to go to, you know, they're going to do the next best thing to survive, and they're going to go back to their criminal behavior. By doing this, it provides them an opportunity to become a productive citizens, and you and I and no one else hopefully be a victim of their behavior. You know, Palm Beach County, the taxpayers of Palm Beach County pays a total of $133 a day to house one inmate in a county jail. And if you times that by 365 days a year, that is $48,545 that are coming off the backs of taxpayers. You know, so, but there's always been a lot of talk about recidivism, but you don't see anyone doing anything about it as far as I see in the law enforcement industry. So as your next sheriff, we got to do things, we got to think outside the box, you know, and if we're going to keep Palm Beach County safe, those are some of the things that we have to do. And we have to realize that people are going to make mistakes, but we can't hold that against them forever and keep our foot from their necks.
If I may, I have a couple of questions. You know, right now in Palm Beach County, and I mean the U.S. at large, but certainly here in Palm Beach County, there are a few elephants in the room that fall into the lap of our county sheriff. One, you know, has already been touched upon with the question about defunding the police and basically the expansion of you know, police practices and investment and so on, and you've already addressed that, Alex. To me, the other two are as follows. You know, one is that recently, I believe it was about 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, there was a demonstration in the,
Yes.
the aftermath of the the George Floyd murder that involved a peaceful walk from West Palm Beach to Wellington. That for which there was supposedly a proper arrangement made with PBSO, and there would be support and mutual understanding and mutual respect and so on. And unfortunately, it devolved into something rather unsavory by the time they got to Wellington. And I'm sure you're familiar with the circumstances. And the other elephant in the room is a late gentleman named Epstein, and the care and feeding of the late Mr. Epstein in the Palm Beach system, and the graces that were extended to him by the current sheriff. In both of those kinds of circumstances, I would really appreciate an understanding of how Sheriff Freeman would handle both of those situations.
In terms of the marchers, the protesters, I was there earlier that day, and I would have been there that night, but I had to go to another event. And I've been out there several times. I'm going to continue to engage them and be a part of their peaceful protests. I think that it's nothing new under the sun when it comes to the sheriff office reneging on promises and that they make to subgroups here in Palm Beach County. As the sheriff, I would have not only allowed it, I would have been a part of it. I think that when you look at West Palm Beach Police Chief and the River Beach Police Chief and the Boynton Beach Police Chief, and there was also one sheriff in Detroit that walked along with the protesters. And I think that when you do that, and when you show that you're open and you're compassionate, and you understand what your plight is, and show the community that although I'm law enforcement, I still have a heart, and I understand what you're going through, because the reality is, as a law enforcement practitioner, I'm a supporter of law enforcement, but I'm a supporter of the ones that are doing things that are consistent with policy and procedure and providing quality law enforcement services to those communities they serve. So I would have joined in, and it would have been a peaceful march down Forest Hill Boulevard. As it relates to Jeffrey Epstein, Sheriff Bradshaw gave Jeffrey Epstein a privilege and an opportunity that he gave no one else that was facing that same crime, those same charges, because he paid him $120,000 that was allegedly for security, and while being on work release, Jeffrey Epstein was still allowed, he still had the opportunity to engage in nefarious sex acts against underage kids while supposedly being watched by deputies. We had a couple of deputies come forward and say, I can't imagine that happening while I was there. He met with Channel 5 and gave that story, And so when Sheriff Bradshaw says he has kept Palm Beach County safe for 16 years and his leadership is above reproach, I question that because of that decision he made with Jeffrey Epstein, and the number of lawsuits that have been filed by the sheriff office for excessive force that has, and not just lawsuits for excessive force of shooting unarmed men, but the internal and external racial discrimination lawsuits that have been filed by deputies in the sheriff's office and who have won, and those settlements are undisclosed. So I think that, you know, we're in a new decade. We're in a new era, in a new culture of policing. And Bradshaw should be commended for his 50 years of service to the industry, but it's time for a change. It's time for a fresh set of eyes, new ideas as we press forward in providing quality law enforcement to Palm Beach County, you know, and whether it's me or the other guy, there needs to be a new sheriff. I just think that he has taken the Democrats for granted for so long, you know, to not be a real Democrat, you know, but it's fitting to change to be a Democrat to run for your 5th term, you know. So my thing is this: anyone that changes their party because they're running for office, you know, to me that's shameful. If you change your party because you don't support the values and the principles of that party anymore, get that, understand that. But just to change to run, that lets you know that any candidate that does that, they're not doing it what's in the best interest of the people of Palm Beach County. They're doing it for their best interest.
Yeah.
Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.
Any other question? Nancy? You're muted, Nancy. You have to unmute yourself.
Sorry.
Yeah, there you go.
You
Okay.
think I know by now? I've been on a lot of these.
Right.
I wrote something in the comments. I just was wondering if you could comment on the whole issue with Don Charles Stevens and paying lobbyists so that he wouldn't have to pay. Don, are you all familiar with what happened?
Yeah.
No,
Tell
I'm
us
not.
that.
Oh, $150,000 or something
Well,
in lobbyists?
It was at least 75. They speculated it might have been up to or a little more than 150,000. But if you could comment on that.
I don't know what the number is, but I know that I heard some discussion that he was paying a lobbyist $350 an hour to fight against Mrs. Stevens receiving his award. You know that in itself, you know, this is one of the reasons why Sheriff Bradshaw does not support body cams, because the body cam, they told the story. This kid was riding a bicycle. You know, he got paralyzed, and he got shot and paralyzed only because the crime he committed was riding a bicycle, you know. And this notion that I thought he had a gun, this, that, other, you know, I'm so sick of some of these rogue law enforcement officers using that as an excuse. I thought he had a gun. When we are trained, when we go to gun qualification, we are trained to shoot and don't shoot. And there are moving targets. And some of the targets do have cell phones and wallets, stuff in their hands. And you can only shoot if they have a gun or a knife, you know. And we know that, unfortunately, we almost have to take a bullet before we can fire a weapon, because we have to make sure that this person is an immediate threat and that they do have a gun, you know. But the culture of the sheriff's office is that, you know, our lives have become a thought. You know, it's no facts, it's just a thought. And I think that, you know, the sheriff's decision to support Sergeant Lynn and the shooting of Daytron Stevens was just terrible. And the only reason why he does that is because we talked about reform earlier. The reason why across this country you're not going to see police reform, and you're not going to see a sheriff or a chief move on police reform unless the unions are on board. Because the unions, the police unions, the PBA is the one that are funding their campaigns, so on and so forth. So they don't want to lose, and some are elected officials, so they don't want to lose that funding source, so they're not going to champion that cause on reforming the police department, and particularly the sheriff's office, you know. So, but I think it's a disgrace. I think that Sheriff Bradshaw should have settled with that young man years before now. Like I said earlier, when you look at the number of lawsuits, if you just Google the number of lawsuits, you will find that there's over $11 million that he has spent out of taxpayer dollars selling these cases where he initially said they was justified after rushing itself to the scene to justify it. You know, I don't know if you all ever paid attention, but most sheriffs and police chiefs, you're never going to see them get on television and justify an officer or a deputy involved shooting, you know, because we're still in the preliminary stages of the investigation, you know, and what you may see on the scene after you collect your evidence on the scene and you take it back and conduct your forensic examination of it, then it gives you a clear picture as to what happened. But when you justify their actions before a preliminary is done, that compromises the investigations of so many others, because so many others don't want to step on the toes of the sheriff, you know. And but what we're finding is that now later, you know, those wasn't justifiable shootings, and that's why they're selling those cases.
Thank you.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Anyone else have questions?
So, yeah, here's one, probably a softball, but what the heck. So, you know, Alex, in your years of service with the Riviera Beach Police Department, you know, can you recall certain specific, you know, incidents or encounters or just in general, what it is that you learned during that time that you feel will be informing you greatly should you become our next sheriff?
You know, when I started in law enforcement, I was 23 years of age, and I celebrate my 51st birthday in just a few days. And of course, as a young practitioner, you know, you're young and you have a gun and a badge, and you feel you can go out there and tackle the world, you know. And so and with that, you're full of vinegar and ego, you know. But what I learned over the years is that, you know, just because I'm a law enforcement officer and have the authority to take away someone's right and arrest them and unfortunately shoot and kill them if I had to, you know, I just recall one day saying to myself, I am always going to treat people the way I want to be treated. And the way I want to be treated, I want to be treated good. I want to be treated with compassion and respect and dignity, you know, and have credibility, you know. So as your next sheriff, you know, there's going to be, I'm a man of integrity and credibility, and my word is my bond, and my word is my word. And I want you all to know that as your next sheriff, I want you to know that I work for you. You will serve as my employer. I will be your employee. If I'm going to ask you for your vote, then as the next sheriff, I have to be accountable and accessible and responsible to the voters who will serve as my boss.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. No, this has been great, Alex, really. You know, I've heard you speak before at the Progressive Caucus, but we really had more time to hear from you. I mean, as I said before, we can't endorse as a club, but I would be surprised if there's anyone that is not going to want to go out and get people to vote for you. Really.
I would love that.
Yeah.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
First of all, I think that your talk to us was inspiring.
Thank you.
I feel better listening to you, given what has been going on, you know, not just the past weeks, but decades.
Yes.
And the second thing is, I am so naive. When I was in Connecticut, the sheriff's office wasn't really anything, you know, it was just the police and the state police. And down here, I realized that this is an extremely important position, especially now. And we've got to help you,
Thank you.
get that across to people that this is as important as the governorship to me. I mean,
Yes.
because you said it. It can be life and death. It can be a change in culture, the way we treat one another. And I was so happy that David brought up the question about dealing with drug offenses. And
Yes.
I'm not including selling drugs to kids or something like that. That might be a separate thing, but he is so right. There is such a waste of potential for people to spend years in jail for sometimes things, marijuana. There's some of them are still in jail, and yet it's legal someplace. So I'm not really asking a question, but just hoping that everyone can do their part to point out how important your office can be to this whole county.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a really great point.
I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
it's kind of
You
funny.
know,
It's kind of funny because I remember, I'm pretty sure I remember how excited my mother was that Bradshaw won. That we had defeated the previous sheriff. And over time, the feeling shifted.
Oh, I remember her saying,
What was that, 30 years
regretted
ago?
it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I'm sorry.
Oh no, Alex, I was just gonna kid. Before when you mentioned about the protest and you called out some of the towns and the police chiefs who walked with the protesters and stuff. I don't think I heard you mention our own Chief Javaro Sims. And
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
He's, I'm so sorry. Javaro is he's my fraternity brother, and we also attended the police academy together. So we go way back. So
Wow.
we go way back. But I want to bring it to you guys' attention. Two very, very important programs that was in place when Sheriff Bradshaw took over the sheriff office, and that was the drug farm and the Eagle Academy. Now, the drug farm was a program similar to the Eagle Academy, but it was a program whereas if a person was arrested for a burglary, theft charge, and it was because of their drug addiction, they were remanded to that facility. And as long as they completed that program, they gave them a second chance at life, and there was not a felony on their record. And in 2010, the sheriff's budget was $418 million. That program was $2.1 million, but it had an 85% success rate. So in 2010, Bradshaw cited budget cuts, and he did away with that program. And in September of that same year, because that happened in December, in September of that same year, the Eagle Academy was for at-risk adolescents who had committed crimes or were on their way to jail. So this program served as a program where as long as they completed the program, then they didn't have a felony on their record, and they gave them a second chance at life. This is for adolescents. That program was $2.5 million to operate. Once again, his budget was $418 million at the time. And because he closed those programs, he received opposition from Judge Mary Lupo, Judge Marks, and Judge Alvarez. And there was a number of people from the community that came out and spoke out against him closing those viable programs. But you hear him talk about the drug mills and all this that is going on now today. If those programs were still in place, maybe we wouldn't have the epidemic of I forget the name of that drug that
OxyContin.
OxyContin. And yeah. So doing away with those programs, they served as a benefit. So as your next sheriff, and I know there's a lot of discussion about the concerns of his inflated budget, but I can assure you that once I'm the sheriff, you will not have to do a public record request for a copy of the budget. The budget is going to be online, whereas you can go on there and see the details of why we're purchasing the equipment that we're purchasing and what it is needed for. And it'll just give you the details so that if you ever had a question, it'll be there for you, you know. And but if you needed to speak with someone, I'm sure that I know that a Freeman administration is going to make itself accessible to the people of Palm Beach County, because what I want to do is something that has not happened in the sheriff's office. I want to create a sheriff night out, a sheriff on the move program. And what that comprised of, the county has 18 districts. So each district is managed by a captain. So every week, whether it be a Tuesday night from 5 to 8, whatever, that captain is going to be required to be at that substation, you know. So if anyone living in that community wants to go in and share whatever their concerns are or complaints are, they can go in and speak with someone from the administrative level. And the sheriff on the move aspect of that is that myself and my undersheriff, we're also going to be attending those meetings so that I can hear directly from the community and understand and know their concerns. Because in an organization as large as the sheriff's office, I'm not naive to believe that information is going to filter to me in a timely fashion, or if information is going to get me, the information that needs to get to me will get to me. So I want to know what my constituents, I want to know what my bosses are concerned about and what's going on in their communities. So I'm going to be a sheriff that you guys can truly count on, and a sheriff that you deserve. And I want you to hold me accountable for my actions.
Thank you. I think you were reading my mind, because my next question was going to be about what role a county organization as large as PBSO could have in the fostering of community policing. You know, when you think of it as normally being, you know, something you would see instituted by municipal forces in Delray and West Palm and Riviera and so on, I got to think that there's something that can be done at the state level to show the kind of leadership that eventually, you know, maybe turns into partnerships with the municipal organizations to do more community policing. And I think you just began to touch on that. So thank you for that.
You know, I'm sorry. You have something to say, Michael?
No, I thought Nancy was about to say something before.
I'm sorry.
She has to unmute first.
I know. No, I just, there's like, I'm doing laundry, so I keep muting myself. No, I just want to say it's kind of an end of the night question, but, you know, how can we help you? I think we're all kind of on the same page.
Yeah.
Normally,
Good question.
Yeah, but
Good question.
There are not that many of us.
And I know that as a club, you know, you guys can't do anything from the club perspective, but be a voice for me down in South County. You know, encourage people to go vote. You know, if you could, and if you would, volunteer for me on election day at your voting polls. You know, and just continue to perpetuate my name down in South County, and know that. Because I'm a young man, I plan to be there, hopefully for at least 3 terms. So if I'm asking for 3 terms early on, then you know I'm going to be committed to my word. You know, when Sheriff Bradshaw ran in 2016, he said it was going to be his last time running. You know, and I remember the Palm Beach Post said this is his last time, so we're going to endorse him. You know, but he has come back and said, you know, he wants to outlive the previous sheriff, which is Sheriff Willie, who did 18 years. So he's doing it because he wants to reach that milestone and pass Sheriff 20 years tenure, you know. And I say this, Sheriff Brad, I don't know if you guys received this email from him, but he sent out an email, and part of the email was talking about crime being down 25% here in Palm Beach County. And he was kind of gloating and suggesting that was a good thing. But, you know, like I said, with a budget his size and being a sheriff for 16 years and being in the industry for 50 years, there's no reason why that number shouldn't be high in terms of crime being down with the billions of dollars and all the technology and all the equipment they have. There's no reason why crime shouldn't be down at least 52% here in Palm Beach County. And that is, to me, that is unacceptable. That's unexcusable. And as your next sheriff, we're going to work on getting that number higher in terms of crime being down.
We have early voting in downtown Delray this year for the first time in a while. So, maybe some of us could be there.
Appreciate it. So if you guys want a t-shirt, I definitely have t-shirts coming in.
Oh, good.
Oh, good.
All right, let us know.
Great.
Yeah.
All right.
I live right near it.
One
I
more
would
thing,
do it.
Michael, can I
What?
just ask them one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Programs for youth. Every police department I've ever heard of says they have them. But I have found, again, Connecticut, not here, they don't get out to that many kids. I'm not asking you what you plan because it's last minute, but I'm just hoping, actually I'm pleading, that you will find the time to get more kids involved before it's too late.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know to the extent of how great the sheriff's office is, the police athletic league, but I know that they're somewhat they somewhat have a presence out in the Glades, but countywide, I don't know what the impact in terms of having an impact with the kids. But so those are things that we, during our transition period, that we're going to have to evaluate and see just how effective they are here in Palm Beach County. But I do believe that there needs to be programs in place where we are able to reach out to our youth. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we may be able to do something in 3 of us live in Rainbury Bay, Shar, David, and me. I don't know if we can get you over here to speak to people.
No, nobody's coming anywhere to speak to people.
Oh, that's true. You're right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Good
Sorry.
try, though.
Yeah. Well, I'll put some
Otherwise, I
sign.
find a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but we
Talk
can
up
give
to
out.
everyone we see, though.
Yes,
What?
please.
We can talk them up to everyone we see.
Oh yeah.
And get it. Yeah, we want t-shirts.
Okay,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Here's mine.
That's good.
I have a mask that says the same. So
We're gonna have wallpaper.
Off topic, but I just saw the new commercial, the new Donald Trump commercial. It's not completely about defunding the police, and it's really scary.
Yeah, it is.
It is. It is.
Isn't it horrible? I'm really upset
That's
by
going to
it.
be the whole campaign is fear, fear, fear.
Here.
Yeah.
But it's well done, and she's right, Nancy. You're so right. It is scary.
right. Except the thing is, I really think, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice. I mean, a lot of people, once you see him, and no, I'm not talking about the crazies, because the crazies, well, even some of them are a little bit nervous about him. But the people in the middle, and there's a lot of them, and there's no excuse for being in the middle. They have seen, him for 2 hours a day at those press conferences, which he viewed as personal psychotherapy sessions where he could, wave his arms around and say whatever he wanted to. And he was used to the crazies loving it, and he scared a lot of people. But anyway.
Okay.
So,
Well, maybe Alex can arrest him when he's out of office.
Absolutely.
Florida.
Oh,
yeah.
You'll find
I
something.
want a picture of that.
Me too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. We
Well,
done?
Alex, thank you so much. I'm really sorry we didn't have a bigger turnout, but we had, as we often say, we have an active group. So And
No.
I learned a lot. I mean, I really did.
Thank you. Well, Michael, you have my numbers, so you can call me anytime, and
Yeah.
I would.
I do. Yeah.
I would definitely share my number with anyone on the panel here. My number is 561-502.
Wait. This thing will be visible by other people, so you may not want to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Michael, you
I'll
have my number.
forward it around. I'll forward it around. Yeah.
And once I'm the sheriff, that is going to remain my number, so you guys can you have a direct line to me.
That's great.
Okay.
That's great.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right, kids. Motion
So-
to close?
Yeah.
Second?
Thanks, everybody.
Good to see you, Alex.
Nancy,
Bye now.
thanks. Yeah.
5, 4,
Okay.
3,
Good night.
2, 1.